For every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is October 16th, YC125, and it is the Eve Universe Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back. Did y'all miss me? I missed you. Yeah, it has been, well, like last week, I did one episode that was extra short, unfortunately. There's been a lot going on. My son has been sick quite a bit. And then, of course, this weekend, he had a 3-day weekend with a pumpkin. We went to the pumpkin patch, so, you know, whatever. But that's fine. We're back. We are here. We have things to talk about. Today's going to be kind of a grab bag day, probably. I have a few topics to go over that aren't necessarily like full things. We want to go over the economic report. We're going to go over some of the patch notes and other news that has happened in the last week, and looking into what is going on in the future and how you can get involved in the invited if you so choose, and help now, get ready now, potentially for the deathless to come. And look, the cat. The cat knows when the show's about to start because she starts meowing, which you'd think that she would learn that that's a mistake. Because when you meow during the stream, she hates this. She hates this so much. Oh, look at that. Look at that cat. Having fun? This what you wanted, kitty? This what you wanted? Huh? Oh. Okay. There's your food right down there. You already have food. You don't need to meow at me. Okay. So yeah, it's good to see you guys again. Good to be back. This week should be a relatively normal week, except I'm going to talk about this a little bit, but on Thursday is going to be a very important stream because I'm going to be doing my first ever sponsorship. So we've been talking about this for a little while. Whoops, sorry. We're going to be doing a stream that is, we are going to be talking about some of the Eve stuff because there's obviously, you know, especially if there's news or anything to talk about that day. However, I'll be showing off Raid Shadow Legends. It'll be sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. And if you could be there for that on Thursday, please, here's the thing. The Eve community is incredibly strong. Hey, Ganai, thank you for that sub, or for that gifted membership. You're the best. 07 to you. And does it say who it goes to? It doesn't. Oh, no. Grim of the Mad. Congratulations on that. So if everybody can be here and participate, I think... So here's my thing, okay? We all learn about EVE Online here in this stream and on this channel. But I think that, like, overall, it would be good. Like, we are also a gaming community. And so it's been a big, strong, like, push for me in my mind to not only do we talk about EVE Online, but I might be able to introduce you guys to other games. Like, we played Starfield and we've played Final Fantasy XIV. I've shown you Hollow Knight. We've shown different games because I think that if you like what I do, then maybe you'll like other things that I like. And to that end, in the same way that I like to introduce EVE Online to you guys, I'd like to introduce these other games to you guys too and put them into context. So on Thursday, we'll be talking about that and we'll be working together to show off how good of a community we are, and hopefully make it so that we can have more sponsorships and everything in the future. But today, we are talking about EVE Online and such. Yeah, I did see that there was a tweet. There's doing an early sign up for the EVE Online mobile app. Hopefully we can soon do a stream to teach new EVE players how to do the Drifter Hives. Yes. Okay, so that's the other thing. There are several videos already. I'd rather you make a new channel for that myself. So Echo, like I said, the majority of the content of the day is probably still going to be EVE related. But having it be a separate channel isn't quite how that works, unfortunately. But yeah. I will say this, like, in all reality, the summer was pretty bleak for me, economically speaking, and I actually am still digging myself out of that hole. So, I mean, excuse me, this is what makes that work, you know? So, It is what it is. But the point of this, and I've talked about this before, I would not be talking about this game. Like, I played this game for over a month before I even got into it, before I even considered getting a sponsorship. Okay, so this isn't just like whatever. This is like I got into the game, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. Today is we're going to be talking about the economic report and other such like that. But I do want to say we do have a lot of other content being made. Danny is working hard to get some videos edited for you guys. We've got my Crimson Harvest rant to do. We've got the frigates breakdown. We've got some other videos coming out. And of course, she could always use some help. So if you are interested in doing some sort of editing or, you know, helping produce the show, we do offer ISK and other, you know, goodies for people who are willing to help out. So, you know, by all means, please contact me in Discord if you're interested in that, or helping out with the Convocation of Empyreans or the Invited or any of that kind of stuff. You can join our Discord. Link is down below or in the chat. All right. Let's see. Raid is a shockingly fun game. It is. All right. So also, in addition to that, we have, I showed it off at the beginning of the stream. We have a new emote for the Invited. The Invited is, of course, our new alliance that is designed around supporting the Angels and the Deathless in particular. Danny has done an amazing job taking my basic concept and red lines and turning it into a beautiful emote. So that is now also available to you guys. If you're a member, you only need to pay $1 to become a member. And you get that emote and all the, you know, videos ahead of time and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but you don't need to do that in order to get the emote or in order to join the Invited. The Invited is recruiting, and we are getting prepared to support the Deathless in his efforts come next month. So, but before we get into next month, let's talk about old news, okay? Before we can get into new news, we have to get past old news. Very Adam's family about that. Why not Garissus? I always want to find a corp focus on supporting the best faction in Eve. So the thing is that the Fulcrum is going to support both. So we're going to be focused on making sure that the Fulcrum is well stocked. So in essence, we are actually supporting you guys. But the key here is that, like, the Convocation of Empyreans supports both Aderon Robotics fighting for the Gallente and the Invited fighting for the Pirates. And so there's a naturally built-in conflict of interest there. And so to avoid that as much as we can, we've decided to have the Invited focus on the Amar Mimitar war zone and Aderon focusing on the Gallente Caldari war zone, and avoid interfering with each other as much as possible. That being said, I'm not above, as an Invited member, going and messing up some Caldari. So there is that. Anywho, yeah, so I don't know how all the mechanics are going to work about which side you can join. We've just decided that for now, the Invited are going to join the Angels, assuming that you can't join both. And now, whether or not you want a direct enlistment, then that's fine. And like I said, if you're in the Fulcrum, we can still support you. Even if you're not in the Invited, we can still support you. I can't imagine who in this game would possibly desire to go into the... Man, the content is going to be so good, though. Man, can you imagine you undock in your home station? It's a fully stocked market. You buy whatever ship you want. You warp to the shipcaster, you jump through, boom, you're in the action. You die, you get potted, you're back in the Fulcrum. Do it again. It is so good. I'm so excited for it. But either way, that being said, let's talk about the patch notes. Let's talk about patch notes. Please make sure to like the stream if you haven't already. It does help out quite a bit. All right. So the big thing about the patch notes right now is, first of all, I think we talked about this last time, but the Crimson Harvest got changed. The hacking cans now are scannable. So it was, no, this was a separate change. So there was a change where the hacking sites had additional cans added to it, presumably to make it so that it's easier to progress down the track. However, that made it so that the data sites were giving way too much loot. So last week we talked about this. They nerfed the loot. However, this week they did another thing, which is that, so it used to be that these sites, once you hacked the first can, the entire site despawned. This was very handy because that means that if you managed to get that first can, then the only way anybody could get to you is if they had already probed you down, already probed the site down, or sorry, probed you down with combat probes, already had the site probed down, or, you know, I don't know. Actually, that's about it. So, you know, it was actually fairly well protected once you hacked that extra, once you hack that first can, you're relatively safe. So this is to get rid of that. So now, even if you hack one can, it doesn't despawn until the normal despawning period. You know, you hack all the cans or whatever. This has the added disadvantage of making it so that the Crimson Harvest sites that are cherry-picked are significantly more obvious to notice. And so people are noticing cherry-picking more often. Now, cherry-picking is when you use a ship scanner to scan the different cans to see which ones you want to hack and then hack them. This is kind of silly for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned, you progress the track by hacking the cans. So even if the can has nothing in it, you still want to hack it for the progress if that's what you're going for. But in addition to that, like, the idea of cherry picking is one of those things that often gets, like, it's very controversial, right? And I've talked about this before. But as far as I know from, like, experiments done by Eve Scout and some of the other people, sites that have one can hacked despawn within about 45 minutes. So the idea that, like, cherry picking somehow makes everything worse for everyone is actually not strictly true, as it seems. And the idea that, like, I as a hacker am here to be polite for you when we are hacking in the same territory, no. That isn't how this works. If I leave a site cherry picked and it gets in your way, that is to my advantage. We are in competition with each other, my friend. I'm not here to make things easier for other explorers. I'm here to take things from other explorers, get there before other explorers do, and recover that loot and get away before other explorers can find it. So no, I do not like, or I do not, my heart does not go out to those who complain about cherry picking. That being said, also, last time when we ranted, I talked about how the Crimson Harvest skins are so out of place. Last year's Crimson Harvest skins dropping is so out of place that they're not even available on the market. Well, that's been corrected. We can now see Crimson Harvest skins on the market. So that's the Tetramon skin and the Ironblood skins that were part of the track from last year, which now drops in the sites. So this is kind of an official acknowledgement of that and making it so it works. And then this is just a faction warfare bug. I think that's about it when it comes to, like, oh yeah, sorry, the big one. So here we go. This is the one that got a lot of people's attention. The Serpentis loyalty point store has been adjusted. The Vanquisher blueprint has gone from 150 million loyalty points. Sorry. Shoot. When did it, what was it changed from? Didn't it just add 1,000? It was 150,000 LP, right? How much was it before? Now, I thought it actually said the amount, but I can't. Now I realize that it doesn't actually say that. They're 150 times the price. Okay. Well, yeah. So it was 1 million. It was 1 million or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Basically, the short of it is that now a Vanquisher blueprint, which the Vanquisher is the Dreadnought, is 150 million LP and 150 billion ISK. That's just for the blueprint. The Vendetta blueprint is 100 million LP and 100 billion ISK. And the Vehement blueprint is the Vanquisher is the Titan, right? Yeah, because the Vehement is, oh god, now I need to look it up. I don't want to give you guys bad information. All right, the Vehement, which is the Dreadnought, went from 25,000 or 25 million, or is now 25 million LP and 25 billion ISK. The Vendetta blueprint, which is the Vendetta is the super carrier, is 100 million LP and 100 billion ISK. And the Vanquisher Titan is 150 million LP and 150 billion ISK. Okay? So previous cost was the Vanquisher was 8 million LP and 1 billion ISK. The Vendetta was 2 million LP and 500 million ISK. And the Vehement was 500,000 LP and 125 million ISK. That means that the Vehement was half the LP of the faction dreads. Now, admittedly, this loyalty points is the Serpentis loyalty point store, which Serpentis loyalty points are very difficult to get. Start over? Oh my god, I don't want to start over. No. So the short of it is, the Vehement blueprint, the Dreadnought blueprint has gone from 500,000 LP and 125 million ISK to 25 million LP and 25 billion ISK, with a similar increase in both the Vendetta and the Vanquisher. Why is Serpentis LP typical to get? No, it's difficult to, well, pirate factions are generally harder LP to get because you have to go into like nullsec and run nullsec missions for the Serpentis in order to get that LP, as opposed to most corporations LP, which are high sec sites, or faction warfare LP, which you get in droves from doing plexes and stuff, right? A million Gallente LP is not the same as a million Serpentis LP. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, difficult. So, and then on top of that, I want to note that these BPCs, these ships right here, are some of the most expensive BPCs in the game, if I remember correctly. View and Industry, the inputs for this Dreadnought is another 95 billion ISK. The Dreadnought is 95 billion ISK total estimated price to build. So that makes it over 100 billion ISK to make the Vehement, which is, this is why the Serpentis capitals are very, very, very expensive, even for the terms of other capitals, mostly because of these Serpentis modified capital microprocessors that are required. This is all related to how these ships were released, which were part of an event called the Shadow of the Serpent event, which ironically was kind of the beginning of the very beginning of the Deathless arc. But I digress. So the point here is that these blueprints are now extraordinarily expensive to buy and extraordinarily expensive to build. Why would they do this? I'll give you this hint right now. I do not believe that CCP is planning on anyone paying these prices. You probably do not, you almost certainly do not want to buy at these prices. This feels to me that this is a way to soft lock the production of new Serpentis capitals, right? This is a way of technically allowing the blueprints to continue to exist, and technically they can continue to be bought, but they are so prohibitively expensive that only if for some reason you're an absolute fanatic and insane would you actually go for these prices. They basically, this is exactly what they did during scarcity with capital and super capital production. They didn't say that you're not allowed to build capitals anymore. They just made capitals 10 times more valuable than anybody was willing to pay for them. So either you already had the capital built in the old costs, or you're not building anymore unless you're willing to pay out the nose to replace your capitals. So this is kind of the same concept again, right? Hold on. Can I permit? I don't know if this is going to work. We'll try it. Go for it. Try it out. Let's see how it works. But yeah, so these are not meant to be built. Why are they? Nope, it didn't work because I didn't see the link. If you want to DM it to me, I can probably, like on Discord, I can pull it up. So why are they doing this, man? Why are they doing this? They are doing this because, oh, shoot, why is there a knock on my door? Hold on. Sorry, it was our maintenance guy. All right. Hold on. Let's see this. Gonna play? What? No, that's not it. All right. I don't know. Hold on. Nope. All right. I am a returning player, and your videos have been a big help relearning and also enjoying the lore. Thank you so much, Brady, for that comment. And your support. That's really cool of you. I'm glad that I can help you out. Make sure to ask any questions if you want to. Why make the game less fun? So, what is really going on here? I think that's not what you sent me. Okay, that's what somebody else sent me. Bad timing. Oh, I see it. Yep, I got it now. Sorry. Are you effing kidding me right now? I just sold my Vehement BPO or BPC for $2 billion. Now they're going for $25 billion in the goddamn LP store. Well, you know, I mean, you win some, you lose some. So let's talk about what that actually. What is this happening? Stop the potential building in case of a pirate capital rework with the new stuff coming with Havoc. Gamer is in the same vein of what I'm thinking. So there are other empires, pirate empires, that have capitals. The Sancha have capitals with their mothership. The Blood Raiders have capitals with their in their sodios and such. So like they didn't do it to those. Now I don't know whether or not you can get Blood Raider capitals in the LP store. Somebody can tell me if that is true or not. But even assuming that, hey, there it is.
I'm a returning player, and your videos have been a big help relearning and also enjoying the lore.
Thank you. So either it is because the Serpentis are the only place that you can get BPCs in a loyalty point store, right? Much like the Angels or whatever. But also, it's worth noting that of all of the... Yeah, no caps in the blood. Okay, so yeah. This is happening to the only loyalty point store that has these capitals in them, except... Hold on. What BPCs can I get here? Hold on. I can get a Mecha Ball, but that's it. I can't get any capitals. There's no angel capitals in the in the Archangel's loyalty point store. So yeah, this is the only loyalty point store that has pirate capitals in them. So it is very possible that these are going to be the new prices of these capitals. Yeah. So that is one indicator that that they're setting the tone for what the prices are going to be for these ships. You know, like the Angel version, right? There are no Angel capitals. There will be. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's no Angel capitals yet. Ha! Garistas. Does the Garistas LP store sell Garistas ships? The Garistas can also be gotten from the Sodios. So I think that, no, I think the Garistas are gotten from the Sodios. The reason why the Serpentis ships can be gotten from the LP store was because they were introduced in an event. But the Garistas, Blood Raiders, and Sancho ships can all be gotten on an ongoing basis. Hence, they're not in the LP store. So yeah, this is actually this is possibly a warning shot for how much these things are going to cost when they finally are available. However, these also seem like really, really, really high numbers, right? So of the pirates that are not currently involved with the Deathless, we have the Blood Raiders, the Sancha, and the Serpentis. And of those three, the Serpentis are the most natural to be the next one that the Deathless courts. Now, if the Deathless happens to be Ani Anakori, like I have suggested in the past, then it is possible that the Deathless will maintain a grudge against against the Serpentis. But given the fact that the Angels have close relationship to the Serpentis, it seems kind of unusual for them to be left out ongoing. So I suspect that this is in combination with that the Serpentis are being prepared to be another one of these pirate factions in a later time, and that these prices are being set to kind of either create a new standard for the prices that will be rolled out for the Angels, or, in my opinion, my optimistic approach is to say that this is intentionally creating a high watermark. You know, it's a prohibitively expensive cost, so that way when things are ready, they can bring the price tag down. But we're going to have to see what happens with the actual deathless LP stores, the Angels and the Garistas ones, in order to know which of those two realities we live in, right? Yeah, exactly. The Serpentis may not be connected, but they are directly affected because of the Angel Cartel. It's absolutely correct. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it will increasingly become unusual that the Deathless has not invited the Serpentis in. Now, again, if the Deathless is in fact Aniana Kori, that could explain it, but that would also become increasingly awkward over time. So will the Angel or Blood Raiders have some sort of capital microprocessors as well? No, again, the capital microprocessors came exclusively because of the way that those ships were introduced into the game, right? This is the thing. This is why the capitals, like super capitals, sorry, faction capitals got shut down originally, was that like each piece, each capital that came out had their own like way of being introduced, which means that the cost and availability for each of these capitals are wildly different. Okay. And the Serpentis ones in particular have always been, they were the first, and they are the most expensive of all of the faction capitals. And the issue is when it comes to just, okay, well, just let's remove the microprocessors. They could reduce the number of microprocessors it takes, but if you think about it, right now, all of the vehements are worth a certain amount. People have actually built these things. And so any cut in the build cost is going to cut significantly the value of those ships in the first place. So that's another reason why you might want to do this. You might want to move a chunk of the value towards the BPC and away from microprocessors, for example. But we're just going to have to see where that goes. In the meantime, all I can say is that this change seems very noteworthy and designed explicitly to make it so that it's a bad idea to continue to purchase these BPCs for Serpentis LP. Okay. Don't I still have 6,000 left? Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that like any change that's good for one person is going to be bad for another, right? If you make vehements more available, then the people that have Serpentis microcontrollers or whatever are out of luck. The thing that bugs me about most of the faction capitals is that they're all excessively overcosted for their actual performance. That's true a lot. I know that like CCP Fozzie back in the day said that, you know, some things exist to be powerful, some things exist to show how big your EPN is. And that in general, faction capitals as they came out were more of the latter than the former. That being said, there are some really interesting faction capital gimmicks out there. Like, for instance, the Dagon having NOS bonuses on a fax, or the Garissa ships having fighters on Dreadnoughts and Titans. Those are kind of cool. This change benefits a handful of players. Correct. Well, yes, it does benefit a handful of players, but it impacts a whole lot of players because, you know, these things have impact on the game. That's the case for faction ships in general, Lorelite? No, that's not true. The worm is worth every fucking penny. That's me spilling coffee on myself. Okay. That's it for patch notes, I think. Let's dive into the monthly economic report for September 2023. Daredevil's, dude, the Daredevil's awesome under the right condition, and I've seen people mess people up with the Krur for sure. Gila, there's lots of pirate ships that are really, really good. Okay, let's not even front. Okay, the monthly economic report for September 2023. As normal, we have the economic report for August, July, June, and May, just so that we can reference it. So let us begin. So production versus destruction, we can see September. Hold on, where do we leave off? So we left off at this big final spike up, and we can see that spike up went back down, but that's pretty much a normal. These are normal ebb and flows. It looks like it's stabilized back or at 4 trillion, which is significantly higher than the 3. You know, it's a quarter. Well, no, a third higher, because it was at 3 trillion back in January of 2022, and now it's at 4 trillion. And that is production. So this is increased production. Whereas, of course, mining has bumped up, but destruction, as kind of always, it's kind of interesting. No matter what's happening, destruction seems to remain relatively flat other than these huge spikes. You can see this going all the way back for years, actually. Okay, so nothing really new here. It just looks like we're stabilizing at a new normal as we enter. But this does mean that we had an amazingly good, like, look, January, May, September of the year before, you can see like there's this big drop off before September. Whereas here, this year, it remains stable and then goes up towards September, which means actually this year is like the summer did really, really good when it came to like activity, at least production activity over the summer compared to last year. And the year before, because you can see like the entire summer is this precipitous drop the year before. All right, key economic figures by region. Let's see here. What do we got? We got Quzxpon at 1.68 trillion. What is this? This is production, right? No, destruction. 1.68 trillion destruction. The month before was 1.81. So 1.68, so a little bit down. This one is 2.45. That was the that structure getting blown up. And 2.02. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like Quzxpon has began to cool off. Probably a combination of like a lot of the big fighting that was going on, kind of winding down as those structures get removed. But also, you know, Quzxpon isn't the new hotness anymore. Zarzak is in town, so that could represent some people shifting away from Quzxpon, but it's hard to say. Anything else stand out? I don't think so. Delve is at 1.45 destructive. 1.3. Yeah, things are pretty stable. Asteroid mined over time. Yep. Again, very flat this month. This month has been pretty much normalcy, which again is actually pretty dang good, all things considered. As we like leave the, you know, right now would be the lull period of time, right? We have the expansion got announced, but it's not here yet. The summer's coming to an end. So the fact that we are pretty stable, I find that very hopeful. Asteroid mine, the delve at over 4 billion. Same as before with the Forge, Lone Trek, Metropolis. The next highest nullsec, the Kavala Expanse. Whereas this month, the Forge, Lone Trek, Domain, Metropolis, Kavala Expanse. So yeah, basically Delve are doing mining, and a lot of the other null groups have had, you know, we've had competitions for who's going to be the top miner at any given time. Or at least we did at one point. Well, we at least had Delve is almost down to sync liaison levels. Nope, that's different. But yeah, Delve's continues to be high and continues to be steady. Delve is, of course, you know, goons. Imperium. Gas mined over time. We can see that there is a minor uptick in wormhole gas mined. It is part of a larger trend that seems to just be kind of steadily going up. Oops, excuse me. From May of this year. So from May on up, we've seen this gradual increase to back to being above now. It's year high, or at least at its year high of gas volume being mined. Gas volume by region, Aridia is number 1. Same as before. Lone Trek Forge, it's at 40 million before. It's at 35 million now. So it's down a little bit, but basically the same. Ice volume over time, it looks like it's dipped down a little bit from up here at above 1 billion to below 1 billion, with most of that dip happening. Looks like it's kind of 50-50, right? Because the blue is a little bit down, but the red is a lot down. So we could call it partially from both, from nullsec and from highsec. So there's a little bit less mining of ice going around across the board. Ice volume by region. Number 1 is Forge, Metropolis, Evershore, Domain. I think that's just the same as always. Let's see. The Forge did 3.5 last month and does 3 this month. So yeah, 500 million cut off. So what, like almost a sixth of less mining in the Forge for ice this month. Let's see. For September, I don't know why that might be. Maybe that's, I mean, like, we've seen the increase in gas and the reduction in ice. These could be related as ice miners move to gas. But other than that, I'm not sure why there would be a dip for that. Ore mined seemed to be stabilizing at a newer high of the year at just under 2.5 billion per spike. And it looks like a lot of that gain has been in nullsec. So this is moon ore mined. So this means that those R64 moons have, you know, the nullsec moons have becoming at least a little bit more productive than before. Moon ore mined by region. We have Domain, Veil of the Silent, and Delve. Whereas before we had Veil of the Silent, Delve, Domain. So Veil of the Silent has fallen below Domain, and Delve has fallen. Yeah, Domain has gone up above both Delve and Veil of the Silent. Veil of the Silent was at just over 4 billion, and Veil of the Silent is still just over 4 billion. So Veil of the Silent is basically mining the same as it was before when it comes to moon ore. But what we're seeing is an increase in moon ore mining in Domain specifically. Domain goes from under 4 billion, almost 3.75 billion, up to 4.5, almost 4.25 maybe billion, 4.33. So a pretty big increase in moon mining, moon ore being mined in Domain specifically. I don't like these charts. I don't understand them. I don't know how to get good information out of them. I mean, top imports and exports. We have, of course, for imports, right? Imports are a positive number, right? Hold on. No, exports are the positive number, imports are the negative number. Got it. So Citadel has exported 31 trillion, and the Forge has imported 82 trillion. That's about right. Let's see what we had last year, or last month. We have Lone Trek at the top at 41, whereas now we have the Citadel at 41. Lone Trek is now number 5. So whatever was going on in Lone Trek is kind of quieted down. It also could be, hold on, let's look at this a little bit. Let's analyze this even further. 314, 356. 321, 334. So what we're seeing is actually an increase in the imports and at the same time a decrease in the exports, causing a net change, causing Lone Truck to fall down to this position, right? Citadel makes sense because Citadel is really close to the forge, so things get made in Citadel and then exported to the forge for sale, which is why we have this massive import of 539 trillion into the forge. Last month that was 570 trillion, so it's actually gone down with 473 trillion going into 456 trillion. So the forge is down by a little bit across the board, both imports and exports. It looks like we're seeing more and more of a shift. We're seeing a little bit of a shift towards nullsec, aren't we? We're seeing a lot, in a lot of ways, we're seeing things in highsec becoming a little bit more reduced and things in nullsec being a little bit more increased. I could be wrong, though. Sinks and faucets. The commodity market is at 39.7 trillion. Whereas last month it was at 43 trillion. I wonder how that's going to play out because so these commodities, September wasn't great for events, if I remember correctly, right? And events are where a lot of commodities come from. We'll probably look at this when we see the commodity chart. So we're seeing commodities fall by almost 10%. 07, thank you for that, Profit Gaming. Meanwhile, bounty prizes goes from 33 to 32, so a little bit less ratting. Main bank auto payments go from 17 to 16, so again, a little bit less ratting, House of Records. What were these about? House of Records, Federal Intelligence Office, Ministry of Internal Order. These were something. Why are these giving out particularly high stuff? What was it? What was it? What did we turn into them? I can't remember now. That wasn't Shadow War, was it? Homefront? Oh, is that Homefronts? Is it the Federal Intelligence Office that you turn it into? Okay, whatever. Actually, let me check. Oh no, never mind. I did it with my other character. I can't look it up with this character. Okay, yeah, so that's probably Homefronts, which is pretty cool. That's actually really good. So that's what Homefronts are a grand total of 5-6 trill, maybe. Hold on, we got Federal, Caldari, Gallente, Amar, Mimitar. So Mimitar are actually below Project Discovery rewards when it comes to total rewards, which Project Discovery was 1 trillion before and 1.1 trillion now. So yeah, there you go. A lot of this stuff will show better on the charts. So let's go ahead and move on. Commodity and faucets over time. So a lot of steadiness here, as you can see. And the Overseer personal effects, like this is a lot of the commodities. I don't know why commodities are down as much as they are. It just looks like maybe miscellaneous has gone down. I think it's just like the end of the Shadow Wars, probably more than anything. But if everything there looks relatively flat. Yes, Overseer personal effects are going to see a big spike in this particular event. We've seen this before. That's what these other spikes are previous events. In fact, we can see this over here. This is the spike from last year's Halloween event. Sinks and faucets over time. So we can see that the transaction tax has climbed back up, which is kind of weird because we saw less importing and exporting, even though we see more transaction tax. And a lot of things are just kind of flat. The commodity market, there we go. There's the overall drop. Look at that. You can see June, July, August, September. June, July, August. So yeah, August would be this like big hump, and September would be this dip down and recovery. And that's why we have a little bit less. Is ROP something that people hold on to? I wouldn't say that, but they drop a whole lot more during the event. If somebody has some laying around and they already need to turn in these new ones, they might collect them all up and turn them in. Money supply. But we can see that the money supply does continue to grow in a very kind of positive way. With the majority continuing to come from an increase in character wallet as opposed to corporation wallets. The velocity of ISK has remained relatively stable at its low point since for basically the entirety of this year. This year has been a stabilization point for the velocity of ISK, although it is, of course, still at a 3, what? Holy crap, hold on. No, actually, it's been stable for 2 years now, more or less. Since January 2022, or really, we could go back to May of 2021, that it's been at this lower point. But it has relatively stabilized. But obviously, it is still significantly down from the reign of the Rockwall era. But that kind of makes sense, because I would argue that at this time, everything we are looking at today will be from before FanFest. Before and during, because this is September. The point is that this is less to do with the fact that velocity of ISK is low now, and more to do with the fact that velocity of ISK was extraordinarily high before. Why? Because people were buying and selling Titans. People were buying and selling Rockwalls. People were like these things, like people were buying and selling Titans in the same way that people might be buying and selling Dreads or whatever now, right? So, what is that? $500 billion a month? Yes, that is. Is it in trillions? Oh, no. This is ISK velocity. ISK velocity is how often an individual ISK is traded in any given period of time. Okay? So basically, we have about half of our liquid currency that shuffles around at any given time. Were contracts actually included in ISK velocity back then? I think so. But even still, like, a lot of these guys were able to do it on markets and stuff. ISK velocity is any ISK changing hands, I think. Oh, so, here we go. ISK velocity without contracts and Plex-related items. So yeah, here we go. So this big fall is if we include contracts, and this comparatively significantly less smaller slope is if we include the contracts. So yeah, this magnitude here is including contracts, which only goes to validate my comment that this is majority capitals being traded at an extremely high level. Well, for every ISK that exists, half an ISK gets traded hands, right? So, in other words, like, if the value is 2, it'd be like, I used my ISK, I gave it to somebody, they used that ISK to then buy something else from somebody else. That ISK would now have a value of 2, right? Because that one ISK has been traded twice. Whereas in this case, effectively, each ISK only gets moved around, only about half of the ISK that is available is actually changing hands at any given time, is actually doing work, as it were. Okay. The mineral price index remains high, guys. Mining remains a good idea. Secondary price index is still very high. Primary price index has recovered, and consumer price index remains flat because consumer price index is relatively independent from almost anything else. So we can see here, uprising is where we see this spike in the mineral price index, and it never recovers. Same with the SPI and the PPI. So we see this big. This is uprising really did wake up Eve again. So that's what you see. Now, in the consumer price index, which is, again, relatively flat, we don't see very big changes, but we do see a drop in accessories. Accessories are like clothing items and other stuff like that. Very volatile market. You can see it goes up and down. We have had a minor down, but that's the, I mean, like, it's a flat bar. The mineral price index, on the other hand, we see that actually, here's an interesting one, because look at all that red versus blue. So this means that high-end minerals, i.e. null-sec minerals, low-sec minerals, have gone up in price, and low-sec minerals, low-end minerals, i.e. titanium and such, have gone down in price. Now, this makes sense, because as the forges get up, then, you know, the bottlenecks shift more towards the more expensive stuff. And also, as you can see, low-end minerals have had a really good run of it recently, overall. So, you know, it makes sense, but it does mean that, like, if you want to get the best value, you might want to start eyeing access to those low-end high-end minerals. Meanwhile, primary producer index, we got, what is this one? Raw moon materials have gone down. This is probably because if we saw, we had an increase in how much was being mined. And so a reduction in how much it costs, but this last dot, you see, it's starting to come back up a little tiny bit, just a little tiny bit. With this one, yeah, we see basically nothing but negatives in the consumer price index, even though they're relatively small. In this one, yeah, we see more falls for the low end. Yeah, exactly what I said. Next, oh yeah, also, sorry, down here, advanced moon materials. So the advanced moon materials, the higher end moon materials, hold on, now that I see that. Raw moon materials, got it. Raw moon materials have gone down, but also the products made from those moon materials, advanced moon material. Wait, hold on. Advanced moon materials means it's been reacted once, right? I think so. Either way, moon materials have gone down quite a bit in the last several months. And it looks like commodities have gone up, but I don't think that that really is us. Secondary producer index. Salvaged materials have gone up, but then back down a little bit. We do see a relatively trend up. Oh, what is this? Accessories. Oh, once again, accessories continue to be volatile and be the majority of these changes. ESS figures. ESS is kind of boring to me, but reserve bank thefts. We got 40 billion in Fountain, which is interesting because, like, if you think about it, we got Delve all the way down here with 3.2 billion. So the guys who are ratting the most are getting robbed the least. Let's see what Fountain says. Who lives in Fountain right now? That's a frat, right? Not ice. Shoot, what was I looking for? Darn it. Oh yeah, ratting. I think it's towards the top, right? Fountain, Fountain, Fountain. And August, we had... So in August, Fountain had 0.64 trillion destroyed, 0.7 trillion destroyed, so up in destruction. Mining went from 1.1 trillion to 1.02 trillion. Initiative. Okay. So mining down by 10%. Exports 37. 26. So exports are down. Imports 35 to 29. So imports are also down. So just lowered activity. Fountain. $8 trillion production. 9 trillion in production. So their production has gone up, even though their other stats have gone down. Yeah. So they're gonna, but they're getting robbed a lot. Oh shoot. Where was it? Do I not have, oh, NPC bounties. That's actually the one I needed. I skipped the one that I needed. All right, hold on. Purple. $2.05 trillion. 2 trillion. So yeah, their ratting is down and they're getting robbed a lot more. Bank thefts. Cool. Reserve bank thefts. So once again, dark means that it's bank milking or friendly people robbing from their own reserve bank, where the lighter ones are true bank robberies. So as you can see, it continues to be that reserve banks are mostly extracted by the people that live there. These keys are gotten in low sec by these really difficult sites, so they have to buy those keys from people that do that in order to milk these reserve banks. Wormhole stuff, charts, and things. Let's just look at the trade net summary. We went from a really high in class 5 with 12 trillion, and some in class 6, to almost the exact same thing this month. Whoa, do we see any significant changes? Hold on. Nope. The only thing you really see is that there's an additional, a little bit extra gas. And this represents that additional gas huffing that we saw, right? So as you can see, these things are like class 2 and class 4 are basically no gas being huffed. And then suddenly now there is gas being huffed. So at least a little bit. Largest battles in the Caldari state and Gallente faction warfare. What is that? That Tama? Is that what? I don't even know what system that would be. I don't know what system that would be. And then there's the largest fights in New Eden in August or September rather. That's it. It was kind of a quiet month as we were waiting for, and then participating in FanFest and all that sort of stuff. But it looks like overall things are pretty steady, and I'm hoping that things only get better when. Oh, Papa, what's huffing? So you mine minerals, but you can't. You don't mine gas. You breathe. You bring it in, right? And so when you breathe in quickly, it's called huffing, right? I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. So when you're huffing gas means basically extracting gas out of a gas cloud. Gas is particularly useful. Wormhole gas are used in both T3 stuff and also capitals and other like higher end ships now, and low-sec and Empire gas is used in battleships, capitals, and all pirate ships. So that gas is extraordinarily valuable, and it's gas huffing is is probably the best way for an alpha to gain ISK as a miner outside of doing home fronts. Home fronts are incredibly good ISK for doing, but of course those don't provide anything for productivity, just ISK. All right, I think that about it. Wonder if they'll ever add cat ear production to those graphs. I know, right? Ah, they're so mean. They're so mean about that. Can you do a home front solo? Home fronts are designed to be done with 5 people. If you do it with less or more than 5 people, you significantly reduce your payout. So you can always join the home front operations channel in-game or in Discord to find other people to do it with. Because chances are there's somebody who's more than willing to let you come on because they have 4, and you being there just makes everybody get money, right? Because if you've got 4 people, everybody makes 13 million. But if you've got 5 people, everyone makes 18 million. So you physically being there, if they have if they only have 4 people, you joining the group means that they get more money too. Yeah, you can multi-box it, but what fun is that? Okay. I think that's about it for the monthly economic report. Like I said, I think that the fact that we went through the summer being relatively flat instead of having a summer lull like we're used to is actually a pretty decent sign, especially since Viridian wasn't like the most like bombastic expansion ever. I am extremely excited to see how this goes over the next couple of months, because something tells me that Zarzak and all this stuff is going to be very, very good for retention and conflict and all of these stats. The thing is this. I've thought about this a lot. Multiboxing the sites can be done, but let's be real. If you can multi-box a home front, you can probably multi-box Abyss or other tasks and make more money. Right? Home fronts work, and it's a good way to practice your multi-boxing if that's what you want to do. But like multi-boxing is, or sorry, home fronts are really, really good money for what it is. But when you want to get to the high end stuff, so it is relatively easy to make a great amount of money for high sec in home fronts. It's really, really easy to make at least 75 million to 100 million an hour doing home fronts, which is really, really crazy good for high sec, especially for you can do it with a brand new alpha if you wanted to, depending on which home front it is. However, making it earn more than 100 million ISK per hour is actually almost impossible. Like it basically has an upper bound. So yes, it's a really great way to meet new people. It's a really great way to do these activities, but breaking those activities in order to make the most amount of money, I just recommend, yeah, there are plenty of other activities. If you've got 5 accounts that you can do, or even 3 accounts. Like I said, Abyss is 3 accounts. And I guarantee you, triple hawking, you will make way more money than home fronts. But home fronts are still really fun, in my opinion. I think they're a really good way for people to come together and hang out. When are you going to do a video on Vanguard? When I have enough to do a video about. Predictions for Vanguard, we're getting a playtest in December. Well, you're going to have to tell me if you think about these as predictions or not, because I see most of the information I have about Vanguard being stuff that they've told us, right? So yeah, there's the playtest in December. I suspect that playtest is actually still going to connect to EVE Online, right? I suspect that it'll have an in-game event related to it, right? Because you got to think, we have Havoc coming out in November introduces the corruption system just in time for the playtest to manipulate it, right? So when we talk about a playtest, what we could do is, if you think about it, each incursion, or each what is it? It's not an invasion, it's not an incursion. What do they call it now when the pirates do it? What are they called? Yeah, first strike is going to be cannon, exactly. Yes, it is. Yeah. They said from day one it'll affect the corruption system. That's one of the reasons why they're introducing the corruption system. So like no, there was a term. It's not an invasion, it's not an incursion, it's a intrusion. We'll go with intrusion. For each insurgency, I think that's what it was. I think that's the term. Thank you. 10 internet points to Nartha. Yeah. So if you think about it, each insurgency is a block of time, right? It has a beginning, middle, and an end. So it could very well be that there is an event in December tied to a specific insurgency in which this shooter plays a part in this particular insurgency. Sorry about that. You get what I'm saying? Because they have these defined windows. So I personally don't think that they'll be like, okay, here's this insurgency that lasts for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and these 5 days out of that time, the shooter's going to be happening. Chances are, I hope that they will make it so that, like, this insurgency is going to be a prototype of what insurgencies are going to be like in the end. When they push the faction warfare mechanic to soft, do you think it'll be included the corruption mechanic too? Well, they've said that, like, that's now how the corruption mechanic relates to it is unknown. But if you think about it, all it really means is that there's a secondary component, right? I mean, like, it doesn't have to be corruption in the classic sense. It's just, there's the struggle for control over the system. And then there's this disruptive force. There's this secondary thing that's layered on top that makes it easier or harder to do the other two, right? So, you could have suppression style mechanics, or you could have, maybe home systems behave a different way than other systems, or you could have it so that the defense multiplier of nullsec affects the sovereignty in the same way that corruption might. You get what I'm saying? Like, when they say that they can bring these things over, they're more thinking of it from like a high level mechanical design sort of thing, right? We have home fronts. Home fronts are defined where two different empires connect. Home fronts have specific sites. Systems adjacent to home fronts are different. They have different sites. Home front systems that are not adjacent to a home front are different. They have different sites and properties. On top of that, home fronts can have special additional properties laid on top of it due to people affecting it in some way or another. That's it. That's all they're doing. It's just, right now, faction warfare is the implementation of that. Does that make sense? You can take those core pieces and you could translate them over to SOV mechanics. They don't necessarily have to be one-to-one. It's just like the same engine powers them both. Does that make sense? It would be kind of interesting if pirates could, like, if different pirates, maybe if people were fighting and a pirate force will try to take advantage of that and go and mess with your SOV fight. And by pirates, I mean other players, right? Because, players live in the sovereignty of empires. One of the things that I want to know, one of the things that I am curious about the most is how much or how Havoc is going to impact Angel and Garista space. Because here's the thing. What is the biggest complaint? You guys might not know this, but I hear this all the time. I've heard this many, many times. The biggest complaint that I hear when it comes to people that want to be part of the pirates is that the pirates do not recognize your efforts, right? I've known people who have ground on like Sancha or whatever in order to get higher standings with whatever their home forces are. But then when they go into a site where some V&I is ratting, then suddenly the Blood Raiders who are, the Sancha who they're friendly with attack them, right? That doesn't make any sense. And in the same way, like with the empires, you know, if I'm in Galmil and I go into Calmil and I go into Caldari territory, I get attacked by their people. But if I'm in Calmil, I don't, right? So the question that I have is these changes, are these changes going to have a change in our relationship with those NPCs in NPC null? Is, you know, am I going to be safer in Angel space as a member of the Angel Cartel support, you know, like a group that supports the Angel Cartel? Does that affect me in any way when I'm operating within Angel space? Do I feel like I'm at home when I'm in Angel space? Yes or no? And that's something that we just simply do not know. Wasn't there the blue standings tanking with NPC Sodios? What? Hold on, what? Anyone in the audience know why there's been some systems that... Oh. Well, there are... I mean, like... Unclaimed territory happens all the time, actually. Would blow me away if they did that, but knowing CCP feels like it probably not. Well, the thing is that they've been working on these rats a lot. Like, all they would have to do is be ready to change it over, right? And it feels like a good time to do it. I'll put it this way. If they don't, I'm going to be bitching quite a bit next month. So be prepared for that. Because, like I said, if I join the Angels, I want to feel like when I'm in Curse, I want to feel like I'm in my home area. Now, obviously, I'm a pirate, so that's not as safe as, you know, wherever. But at the very least, when I see Angels on the gate, I want to feel like I'm being welcomed home. It is likely that they'll never change missions. I mean, they've said that they want to. I don't know about missions per se. I'm more talking about just the rats in the systems itself, right? So, and it's just a matter of switching to the new AI. Oh, I just realized I used the background that I wanted to today, but then I also didn't do the change I wanted to do. So let me just do that real quick. Color correction. What? Oh, I did this differently this time. There we go. Perfect. Now we're all deathlessy. What would feeling like home mean to you? Like I said, it's as simple as having the rats not attack me on the gate, right? Like, we'll start with that. How about that? I want the rats that are just out about in Curse to not attack me. Much like the Trig, right? In the same way that when I go to Pochvin, I feel at home. Well, I don't know about being... I mean, becoming immune to bubbles is a big ask. But I mean, in this, like I said, in the same way that going to Pochvin, you have friends in Pochvin if you're allied with the Triglavians. That's all. In addition to that, I also would really like to see support for people who live in a structure. I think Zarzak is going to be a big piece to this, right? Because we've seen this in Pochvin, we've seen this in faction warfare, and we've seen this in other places where, like, structures are really great because structures have powerful bonuses that convince you to move to structures. But increasingly, what CCP is working on are things in which we work with the empires or work with the NPCs. And increasingly, that means living in their facilities, right? 07, Danny, you are invited to like and sub. Exactly. So, if you're Trig friendly and you fly it to a capsulator attacking Trig NPCs and you attack the PC without having the NPC attack you, yes. If the opponent, if there's a person fighting the Trig and I'm friendly with the Trig and I attack them, the Trig will actually not only help me, but they will rep me if I come under attack. Yes, they could just theoretically replace all of the rats with Trig code or whatever you want to call it. Theoretically. I've talked to CCP before, and they have reinforced the fact that this is absolutely possible. It's just whether or not they do, or whether or not it's at that stage yet, I guess is a better way of putting it. I think there'll be a new group for the Angel standing, and getting standings with the Deathless won't affect Angel Rat standings, like a new Guardian Angels. I have no idea. There you go, Danny. Well, so yes, there is going to be a new corporation for the Angels to participate in. And there is also Deathless standing, as we know. But my point is that, like, here's the thing. I want to live in the Fulcrum. They want me to live in the Fulcrum. But if the Fulcrum is just another NPC station, now I'm actually sacrificing any benefits I could have from having a Sodio or any other manufacturing facility or anything else, right? Because I live in an NPC station. This was also true in faction warfare. We've run into this problem where, like, sure, we could have structures. And yes, we have, like, Galmill has structures, obviously. But do we really want them? Aderon doesn't. Aderon wants to live in a FDU station and operate out of there and be, because we don't want to deal with structure fighting. We're not there to do structure fighting. We're there to do faction warfare. And so, living and using the facilities of the people you own. Same with Pochvin, right? As the structures begin to be destroyed in Pochvin, increasingly people only can live in the stations that are owned by the Triglavians. There's really good mining and stuff in that area, but there's nothing that allows the people that's like, it's still better for a Triglavian to export their shit out of Pochvin in order to reprocess it and to build it there and then bring it back into Pochvin, even though that's a giant pain in the butt. Like, it would be nice if having extremely high Triglavian standings made it so that the services in Triglavian stations had bonuses more similar to player bonuses. And there's kind of precedence for this too, right? Like, because like the original cloning system, the fact that you could jump between clones without a timing was originally only for structures. It was one of the things that was given to citadels originally as a way of being like, look, citadels are better than stations. But now every station allows you to jump between clones in the same station without triggering the timer, right? So that ability, which was exclusively to structures, is now also available to stations, to be fair. I think that living in an NPC station with maximum standings with that faction should be similar to living in a player structure. And I think that Zarzak is just going to become another critical moment where that becomes even more true. That was actually a bug originally. If word of a dev is to be believed, they made it a feature. I thought for sure. Well, that may be Lorelite, but remember the production of Citadels was like 6 months long. Like we play tested Citadels for like 4 to 6 months. So there's a very good possibility that it was originally a bug, but by the time Citadels rolled out, they decided to call it a feature. I can't remember that well. Yeah, I just think that, like, and yeah, I'm going to say selfishly, right? Our goal is to support the Fulcrum. I want to be able to just turn the Fulcrum into a production zone, right? And I feel like it should be. But like, is it going to be more efficient to try to have a Sodio in, say, Turner and then move things into Zarzak? Gross, but maybe. I just think that the time has come for people who put individual effort into grinding up standings with a corporation should have benefits from that in the same way that a player that paid a lot of money to drop a structure gets. Speaking of structures, our war from last week, we did successfully defend all of our structures. They have extended the war, but not reinforced, which I find very confusing. But yeah, thanks for everybody who offered support. And, I'll let you guys know if there's anything more. The amount of people that formed on our side, I did not expect. Makes me kind of want to go fight some more people with the amount of people that we're able to pull together. But the Invited is growing quickly. I recommend coming and taking part in it. We need benefits for doing something, specifically something as limiting as choosing Zarzak as a home or prior alignment. There is a lot of convenience in Zarzak, don't get me wrong. I mean, you could build a station in Zarzak. Well, no, you can't. But yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I wish there was more of a benefit to standings grindings. There's a lot of interesting story NPC corps, but there's little reason to grind or support them. I agree. Yeah. But again, like, I think that this just drives that home. Pochfin, Faction Warfare, Zarzak, and Angel, you know, like the broader NPC nullsec concept as they're kind of getting more into these. I'm just saying, living with and earning prestige with a corporation, rank has its privileges. There should be better privileges. Didn't they give out a vehement one-run PPC for some event? Yes, the Shadow of the Serpent event, which was when they were introduced. I'm just going to open up the first bar in the Fulcrum and enjoy inflow and outflow while continuing my usual stuff. Yes, Lorelite. I'm sure that the Fulcrum will give you plenty to gossip about. Speaking of Zarzak, last week we got an update by CCP called Zarzak and the Deathless. Now this stream, or this post and stream, did not necessarily give us anything new, but it did reinforce some things and gives us a good opportunity to kind of walk through this. There's still a lot of new things for a lot of new people. So let's go ahead and look at this real quick. EVE Online Havoc will be the second major expansion for EVE in 2023. And as with the Viridian expansion in June, the In Focus series will give you early insights into specific upcoming elements in the expansion due in November, starting here. Hold on. So just as we saw last year, or sorry, just like we saw with Viridian, we're going to see a dev blog every week, right? So this week is, or last week was Zarzak. Havoc will now allow you to align with the Angel Cartel and Gris's pirate factions and spread corruption in the enemy war zones, introducing brand new Angel and Gris's ships, including the long-awaited Angel Cartel Titan, as well as building on the strong foundations for player corporations that debuted in Viridian with enhancements to corporation projects, air opportunities, and more. At EVE FanFest 2023, the previously uncharted Zarzak star system was opened, and it was revealed that the star system was under the control of a group of insurgents called the Deathless Circle. This narrative revelation will drive the upcoming pirate insurgencies from Zarzak into faction warfare space within Empire territories, and the ability for Capsuleers to align themselves with the Angel Cartel and the Gristis. Get the lowdown on this new space as discussed. Yeah, so we have this video. We'll look at it, but this is most of this is just in the text here. Going into the Havoc expansion, the opportunity to advance some of the New Eden storyline was taken, with more being revealed about the Jovian Empire. This is a big thing that they keep bringing up, which is that, like, so this reminds me of Sleepers, right? When CCP Drop Bear first introduced Anoikis, Wormhole Space, they criticized him for abandoning the rogue drones. Why aren't you just doing more rogue drone stuff? Why are you bringing in this whole sleeper thing? And he talked about how this was to them, this was an opportunity for them to expand upon these storylines that had been basically left dormant since literally Cosmos missions at the very beginning of EVE. So we're seeing a lot of that same language again. So what we're, from the background side of view, Jove are back on the table, right? Overall, the next narrative arc, whatever you want to call it, the next year or more, when we're talking about ancient stuff, we're going to be focused around Jovians, and likely through the lens of Zarzak and unlocking Zarzak. Now, does this mean that they've abandoned the Triglavian lore? Absolutely not. Why? Because the Triglavians have relations with the Second Jovian Empire. They refer to the remnants of the Second Jovian Empire as the ancient enemy Azdaja, and they had relationships with the First Jovian Empire, which apparently required them to purge all connections with at one point because of corruption. and led to them basically distancing themselves from the Jovians. So, you know, the Triglavian storyline is the Jovian storyline. Does this mean that they're abandoning the Drifter storyline? Absolutely not. The Drifters, being from the Sleeper constructs, the Sleepers are remnants of the Second Jovian Empire. These are all connected. That's why, in order to open up Zarzak, we need to go into Drifter hives. So, you know, I hear this a lot where it's like, oh, well, they've abandoned this plot line or they've abandoned this plot line. They really don't. It's just which actors are playing limelight at any given time and which actors are being more consequential or, you know, being more the consequence as opposed to the consequential piece of it, right? So Jovians touch on all of these different, like the Jovian mantra, it basically covers most of the precursor crisis. So that's really cool. And we get to see a lot more about Jovian technology. We're going to get our hands on true Jovian technology for the first time since the release of the capsule, as we unlock Zarzak and the Fulcrum. So, have to start revealing the real threat to the Trigs now that the Trig have made themselves known. How do you think that the Other will come into play in all this? I think that the Other is the twist in the shooter. I've said this forever, that the Other plot cannot move forward without the shooter. And it's no coincidence that as soon as the shooter's announced, we see a focus on the Drove, the focus on the Drifters, and potentially the focus on the Other. So yes, I do believe that this is all connected. Okay. Speaking of mysteries, the Deathless Circle is also currently something of an enigma. They have moved to Zarzak before anyone else and has been there for some time, and they have managed to establish a basic understanding of its content and technology, such as operating the Jovian stargates. Inside Zarzak, there are Jovian relics, which provide fascinating background to the pirates who occupy the system, including Jovian megastructures called a Jovian megastructure called the Fulcrum, where the Deathless has set up base. He is aligned with the Angel Cartel and the Garissus pirates by promising them a brighter future, offering them the sanctuary hidden from the empires. Zarzak itself has completely different atmosphere from the rest of New Eden. It represents a brand new space for capsuleers to explore, including totally unique environments that are as ancient and advanced as many will come to expect from anything touched by the Jove Empire. It has a limited visibility, and a lot of it has yet to be uncovered. From within the system is an interstellar shipcaster construction site, and this location, plus the Fulcrum and the 4 stargates, are surrounded by safe zones that do not damage any ships. However, venturing outside of these safe zones will immediately come at a price, as Zarzak's hostile environment begins to damage the ship's hull at an increasing pace. Going forward, the in-game narrative will develop to allow capsuleers to participate in the unraveling more of Zarzak's secrets. Linking Turner, Alsavoinen, Venal, and Curse through Zarzak may also be significant in terms of tactical movements within New Eden in the future. So, what this means is that as things go, not only are we having like plot and everything leading outside of Zarzak through the invasion or the what was the word that we used? Insurgency. You know, not only will the insurgencies help run the plot, but there will be also tasks or events or challenges within Zarzak to help online the various functionalities within the Fulcrum. The one thing that they keep reinforcing, which I find very interesting that CCP would go out of their way to continue to point this out, is that the Deathless has only accessed a very small portion of the Fulcrum. There is a ton more of the Fulcrum to unlock, right? So even as we do now to unlock the Fulcrum by turning in the elements and stuff, so too as we go forward, there will be additional tasks to help unlock Zarzak, and realize that these Jovian structures are broadcasting or are the things creating these zones of safety. And it's very, very likely that the zones of safety that we have access to are simply the ones that the Deathless allows us to see access to, or maybe it's the only ones that the Deathless has found. So we could very well see events that take place in Zarzak, which is crazy, because imagine a site with no directional scan. You cannot, you have to warp to that site not knowing whether or not there's anyone there. And you have to be in that site and do whatever it is that you have to do in that site, not knowing if anyone is about to land. It's pretty cool, in my opinion, and I look forward to that. I got some war clones, but I didn't want to sell them because the shooter might need them. Also, Havoc video shows war clone activation. The only way to get them is from Tetramon. Yeah, there are war clone blanks dropping for this event. Although, all things considered, it doesn't look like the past events are too related to what's currently going on. However, I wouldn't put it past the ARC team to realize that there's a bunch of blank clones now out there. Let's use them in some way. So it could go either way. I, for one, am not selling my blank clones to the Blood Raiders right now. The war clones are also part of Vanguard. I mean, Vanguard soldiers are war clones. War clones are, like, we're Capsuleers, right? War clones are like Capsuleers that aren't in pots. They're foot soldiers. That's what a war clone is. So, yeah. Technically speaking, we are collecting blank clones for use in as soldiers. Eyes on the storm. When designing their ammo. Yeah. War clones are any non-capsular immortal, not just for soldier. I don't think so. Like, the clone, the backup clone that Celis Agard used wasn't a war clone. It was a backup clone. It was a... War clones are specifically for immortal soldiers that are in war, right? Like, because there are normal cloning. War clones specifically came out of the Templar project and derivatives. Lorelight's going to correct me, but we'll see. Darkness and Chaos. Zarzak's soundtrack. Oh. Capsuleer's Combat Immortals? What? Hold on. Non-Capsuleer Combat Immortals. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. You're right. Nope. Lorelight's absolutely correct. Yep. Valkyries do count as war clones. Yeah. It is really interesting. I wonder if they're going to play off of, like, because, like, the Valkyrie situation really left that whole plot, like, in the middle of things, right? So I wonder whether or not we're going to have... actually, I think this is not the first time you've corrected me on this, Lorelight, now that I think about it. But I wonder if we're going to see anything involving the Valkyries, involving Fatal, or Ron, or the Quartermaster as we move forward, right? Will the Guristas, will working with the Guristas also open the door for, like, examining what has happened since the events of Valkyrie, right? Like, right now we actually don't have any idea where Fatal is or what he's up to. We honestly don't really know what the Quartermaster is up to either. Valkyrie clone pilots are similar to Spot to Dust clone soldiers. Is that it's almost entire? I wouldn't say that. The CCP has used the war clone like outfits, the corporations, quite a bit, but I see what you're saying. I would expect the Valkyrie code to be injected into Vanguard. I don't think that that's how that works. I thought that the Quartermaster could be the Deathless. The Quartermaster could be the Deathless, but I don't think so. Hold on. Now I gotta look up something. Nope, that's not it. I think I have a thing. Where is it? Eve. Can't find it. Dang it. I thought Fatal got cloned into a rabbit. No. Shoot. Nope, I can't find it. Dang it. I had a soundbite with the quartermaster talking. Let me see if I can find a video. Complete Echo Archive. Excellent.
Will even corrupt what's left of your carbon copy soul. Each one is surrounded by a thick, nebulous layer. A violent haze that shrouds its secrets in electrified mist.
That's the quartermaster talking.
You thought you knew obscured and contorted. You'll never know what's on the other side until it's too late. Those who dare venture inside have a lot to gain. This is my mission to you.
He's got a pretty thick accent.
Gases swirling around him there are a commodity I would pay handsomely for. Refined down, they can have some unpredictable qualities. Just a little sprinkling. A few drops in your fuel mixture.
Meanwhile, we have
This.
I bring promise of a brighter future for us all. This is an invitation.
and this one.
Concord officials have
I have broadcast the new signatures of those sites to all. Why should you not destroy the Sorrow Bully Boys? They have always sought to control you. Do their bidding no more. Open your eyes. Seize your...
I am of the firm belief. I continue to be of the opinion that the Deathless is Anianakori. And I don't think that the Deathless is... I don't think that the Quartermaster is the Deathless. Well, it is worth noting that in this video, he's still, like, a person, right? Whereas in this video, he is actually...
And together.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, this is what he's become now.
I have given it life. It feeds on me. And in return, it yields knowledge, gifts, power. Prepare your forces for chaos on the front lines. Harness the might of Capsuleers with the promise of riches. And together, we will unlock Zarzak's secrets. One by one.
God, I can't wait for this expansion, man. I'm so excited. Ah, looks like a drifter to me, one of the Trinos. Well, I mean, like, so he's been altered by Jovian technology. Drifter tech and Jovian tech are often indistinguishable. So yeah. Oh my god, I hate you guys. So Clear Skies did some serious foreshadowing? A little bit, yeah. All right, so I think to conclude this day, though, since we have a little bit more time, I was thinking about doing a chronicle reading real quick. It is Halloween, or it is, it is spooky month, as they call it, and therefore I have a chronicle to read. I've actually been listening to a lot of the podcasts of like Behind the Bastards, and so I got inspired to like look for one of the biggest bastards in New Eden and highlight them a little bit. Now, you know, I have a list of like the most dangerous people in New Eden that I'd love to cover, but this guy is somebody who isn't really around anymore. However, he is very possibly one of the biggest bastards in modern Eve history, and that is a man by the name of Karsoth. Karsoth was the the chancellor of the Amar Empire at the time of the emperor's death in, I think, what, 2008, I think it was. And so as and because the other heirs didn't want to risk their own death by trying to become the new emperor, they basically forfeited leadership of the Amar Empire to Karsoth. And he did awful things with it because he's an awful person. And you get to see more about this in like in the Empyrean Age and in Templar 1 and such, but mostly Empyrean Age, actually. This chronicle is called Of God and Her Beast, and it's going to be, it relates these two topics together. So let's get ready to go. There's Karsoth. Isn't he charming? When he dropped the golden vial, Antar knew he was a dead man. They were in the garden of contemplation. Larange and he, arguing about the tenets of faith and their service to the Chamberlain. Both of them were privileged holders who had done a lot of work in the royal court, and constant friction of daily interaction had filed them into two smooth blocks of solid rock, smashed for so long against one another that they grated past with minimum of fuss and agony, each waiting for the other to finally crack and break. Before the vial had even touched the ground, Antar was already kneeling for it, his fingers reaching for the shiny surface and his mind working on some suitable excuse. By the time he snatched it up again and put it in his pocket, he had already decided not to say anything at all, and prayed instead that Larange would think that the fallen object had been one of the golden buttons on his robe. And Larange didn't seem to notice, going on as he did about the futility of self-devotion when there were so many issues to be dealt with every day. Quote, "You don't get anything done if you're on your knees in prayer all day," he said. "The Empire expects results." Antar, who wanted to get out of this conversation before his trembling hands gave him away, forced himself to shrug and say, "Then I guess we better get to it." Larange sniffed at him and walked away. Once he was alone, Antar walked over to the benches and sat down heavily. He felt the vial inside of his pocket, pressing against his skin. He had an appointment with the Chamberlain himself in less than a day's time. He needed to keep a clear head and not fill himself with trash and paranoia. So he'd gone to the Garden of Contemplation, picked his 1000th fight with a man who loathed him, and right in the middle of things, he had started fiddling with the golden vial that contained his emergency supply of drugs. The golden vial that he had started bringing into the court for no reason whatsoever. He rubbed his face with his hands, then spread them on the bench, leaned his head back and listened to the susurrus around him, with the closed eyes and progressively calming breath. It was not in the nature of a man to deny his own nature. He enjoyed sitting on the bench and having the sun stroke his face. He also enjoyed doing drugs, not merely riding their highs, but suffering their calamitous drops as well. That part had been a revelation. The pressure of living in high Amar society, not to mention working for some of the most high-powered men in the Empire, was such that most everyone had to find some manner of release. This was natural and expected, and people dealt with it in prayer and piety. You were expected to suffer for your faith, and that you did, meandering through the random mazes of humanity's constructs in the hope of finding enlightenment on the other side. The stress and the pressure meant that you had a need for God beyond the everyday. But not everyone found themselves able to alleviate the stress through prayer, and sometimes would turn to self-flagellation. It was not uncommon for high-ranking officials to be seen on slow walks around the many gardens in the Chamberlain's courts, gingerly feeling their way towards the benches or tables after an evening of bloody abuse. This was smiled at, if not actively encouraged, by the church. Drug use was forbidden, as was imbibing too much alcohol, synthetic drinks, or anything except for the mildest brews. But to Antar, it became too much the same. It made no sense to self-harm, nor to lose yourself in invocation, because both depend on your strength and willpower to see it through. When you gave your autonomy over to someone else as your faith demanded, Antar felt that the very least God could do in return was to provide an unblocked passageway to him. He had gone to the drugs out of frustration and shame at being unable to take the pressure, and out of unwillingness to devote himself to the increasingly useless prayer and pain threshold testing. In the aftermath of fugue and tremors, he found himself at last. He was supposed to suffer, and that he certainly done, spending what felt like centuries in panicked agony of visions, sweats, and paranoia. But when it wore off, all he could think of was to do it again. The highs gave him a sacrament, and the lows gave him vindication. It felt perversely like being closer, not only to God, but to himself as well, being true to his own nature, and true to the punishing demands of his faith, by enjoying life to the fullest, and then suffering for it. It was the one and perfect way of achieving wholeness, and L'Orange has embraced it wholeheartedly. He got up, brushed off his robes, and looked around. The day was drawing to an end. The sunlight glinted off of a nearby statue of a slaver hound cast in bronze. Its presence comforted him, for if God created these vicious, merciless animals, then surely there must have been some concession on God's side to the animalistic nature of human beings. Antar headed towards his quarters. Tomorrow would be a demanding day, and he would need to clear his head. "My dear boy, so good to see you," the Chamberlain said. His antechamber glimmered in the early daylight. The ceiling was high and ended in tinted windows whose glass changed hue according to the strength of the sunlight. In the afternoon, it would be the golden and regal, and in the early evening, bronze blood red. But in the mornings were bright and uplifting. From beyond came the sound of birds. The walls were covered with icons, woven tapestries illustrated with the crests of the 5 heirs and beset with their iconic gemstones, small crests and smaller paintings of the holders that had performed high service to the empire, and massive decorations of all sorts depicting the glorious empires or emperors of past age. There were barely room for God. Antar, still kneeling, murmured to his chest, "I am always at your service, Your Honor." There were no guards inside the room, which was not that unusual. They were for decoration as much as anything, and the Chamberlain often sent them out so he could discuss personal business. "And so polite as well," Chamberlain Karsoth said with a laugh. "I trust you had a good stay in the palace quarters." "They never failed to bring me happiness," Antar said. This was true. He had emptied the vial last night and disposed of it for good. The visions had been quite marvelous. "That is good to hear. I like hearing positive words. We should have more of that in your place, us pitiable, unworthy sinners." Antar remained silent. He'd always liked the Chamberlain, an opinion that had made him the minority among the court. But the man's conversation style was dangerously comfortable. A genial chat with the wrong word let loose could mean the trip to the cleansing pits. "Are you contemplating the heavens?" Karsoth asked him in silky tones. "Always, my lord," Antar said. "How may I serve you?" This time, the Chamberlain did not answer. The silence was so complete, Antar could hear his own heartbeats, and he realized with a tiny bloom of terror that the bird song had fallen silent as well. The audio blocks had been set down. He kept his eyes resolutely on the ground. Before him, he heard the noise of the Chamberlain rising to his feet. the metal pistons of his legs hissing as they supported the man's frame. There was a thunk, and another thunk, repeated at higher volumes as Karsoth walked closer. Perfume wafted over Antar. "From this height I could take off your head," Karsoth said, in the same quiet voice. "I believe you could, my lord," Antar said, keeping his breathing as steady as he could. His legs trembling soft. His legs trembled His legs trembled slightly, though whether from strain or panic he did not know. "Larange spoke to me last night," Karsoth said. Antar said nothing. "I had your chambers searched," Karsoth said. Antar remained resolutely quiet. "Do you have something to tell me, servant of the Empire?" For the first time, Antar looked up and directly into the eyes of the Chamberlain Karsoth, highest representative of the Celestial Court, supreme authority to the Amarr Empire, and conduit to the living God. And he saw something he recognized. "Nothing you don't already know, my lord," Antar said. Karsoth smiled and pulled something out of a pocket on his golden robe. Antar had no doubt that he fully knew what crimes Antar had committed. For the man's dark network of spies and information was vast, but seeing the vial in the Chamberlain's hand was still a shock, not merely because it was the final embodiment of Antar's doom, but he was absolutely certain that he had destroyed it. "Show me how faithful you are, Antar," the towering Chamberlain said to him, in that same strange smile still on his face. "Talk." Antar knew that whatever he said in here wouldn't matter. His fate would have been decided already, and his confession was no more than an amusement to the Chamberlain. Whether he begged, pleaded, threatened, or cajoled, he would still end up in the cleansing pit. Nothing mattered now, but conversely, nothing was forbidden. Through the pounding noise of his heartbeat, there surfaced the realization that he was free to say what he wished in his last confession. So, he began to talk. In the silence, he spoke of the pain and the punishment, of the fracture between body and spirit, and of the ideal no one could possibly fulfill unless they explored all facets of humanity. He told of the heavenly visions he'd encountered outside of himself, and the hellish aftermath and the fall back to reality. He confessed his constant, infinite, unyielding frustration with the Empire's insistence on denying itself the divine imperatives to be animals. At some point, though, through the fugue of quiet panic, he realized that he had stood up and was looking at the Chamberlain in the face. He kept talking. And at last he stopped, falling abruptly silent like the last page turned. He felt clean and empty, like anything Karsoth could do would be an afterthought to the life already ended. The giant man watched him for a long time, the smile on his face not completely faded. Then he leaned in, the supports on his legs creaking with effort, and said, "You are the man I've been looking for." Antar stared back, with a dull and uncomprehending mind. "Do you know what's going to happen to you, faithful one?" the Chamberlain asked. "I will die," Antar said. "Eventually." "That you will. But first, you will follow me." Karsoth turned and walked to the wall behind his throne. For a moment, he stood in front of the painting of someone Antar had never known. There was no sign, no laser outline, no shimmer, and nothing that indicated a change. Karsoth merely gave a short grunt of satisfaction, walked toward the wall, and melded into it. Not vanished. Antar's brain had told Antar's incredulous eyes the Chamberlain had not been abducted or turned invisible, but neither had he merely walked through the holograph. He had entered the wall as if it were a porous membrane, and the wall had melded itself to him, rippled and moved, and let him pass through. Karsoth's face pushed back out, its surface area such a picture-perfect replica of the wall he'd entered that Antar could only make him out by the outlines of his jowls. "The passage is active for only a few more seconds, Acolyte," he said. "You come now, or never." Yeah, he's got big spider legs to hold him up because he's so fat. Antar's feet took over from the rest of his stupid body and propelled him through. On the other side were people. They seemed to be enjoying themselves. There was no external lighting, but torchlight glinted off naked skin. Some of them were ingesting things. Contrary to what you might believe, I am extremely faithful, Karsoth said, as if in passing. Antar nodded, unable to tear his gaze from the mass of humanity writhing in front of him. The air in the room was heavily perfumed, and the people were making low sounds. He felt lightheaded. But I do despise the God of the people we serve, for it is not the one true God. He would encourage indulgence and unfettered belief. He? Antar said, absent-mindedly, not having heard a word. Karsoth misunderstood him. Or she. God can be anything you wish. What happens to these people? Antar said, still not entirely back to reality. Karsoth gave him a stern look. What do you think happens? Before I saw this, I would have said the cleansing pits, Antar replied. Karsoth grunted. They watched the display for a while. In a controlled voice that betrayed the slightest of tremors, Antar said, My lord, I should ask, for I expect the question includes me as well. What does happen to these people? Karsoth put a hand on his shoulder, and in a benevolent voice said, They are forgiven, my son, and they go on. Where, my lord? Antar said. He thought for a moment. This was Karsoth. And in one piece? He added. The Chamberlain laughed out loud, a raucous roar of noise that echoed through the room. Yes, Antar, they will be fine. They come here now and then to tell me the news from darker parts. Most are free to wander the court as they please, but they tend to prefer each other's company until they depart. Quite, my lord. Karsoth turned towards him. Understand, Acolyte, there exists a people who think like this. I found them through much the same crisis of faith as you extemporized to me. A truth that defied the death you were staring in the eyes. I will send you to them now, as my emissary. You have served me well in the past, and you will serve me even better in your new position. Me lord, well, what is there to say? I serve, Antar said, and bowed. So you will, Karsoth said. There is an enemy out there that needs to be dealt with, for she stands against all that we are, not in innocence, which is easy enough countered, but in a different kind of darkness altogether. You will never see her, for it would kill you, but you will hunt down the ones closest to her, and you will do it among your own kind at last. Yes, my lord. So you'll be off. But I will need you to know now, and believe me, I will see the lie in your face. Do you want to go? Do you understand that you will leave behind everything you knew and disclaim every trace of the life that you had? Yes, your grace, Antar said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Who are these people? Chamberlain Karsoth smiled. They are called the Blood Raiders. And that is Of God and Her Beast, the chronicle that was released first in June 16th, 2008, or YC110, where Karsoth, the Chamberlain, sends Antar to go be part of the Blood Raiders. Who is Antar? Who is Antar, you might ask? Well, for those of you who might be paying attention, oh boy, this is not good. If we go looking through these things and we see Half a Life, this is one of those chronicles that are related to the End of the World series. We've gone over these multiple times, right? They were finishing up a patrol in EC Tech P8R when they were told of fresh meat. Antar's team have been doing a hunt and grabs for a while now. He had become a natural at bleeding his victims. The experience depended on one's training, origins, and constitution. Custom wisdom that anyone who didn't pale and grow nauseated at the first time of hooking up live body, blah, 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 blah. So Antar himself is the Blood Raider that tracked down the SOE to find the super weapon. Antar is the one who speaks to Omir and gets help from the SOCT to shut down the rogue drones. And Antar is the Blood Raider who is destroyed when the Thucker pilot blows up the Isogen 5 cache, causing the criticality event and the Apocrypha event, right? So That's how these all things come together. And so that is your story for the day. I thought that that was a good way to link together the Crimson Harvest, what's going on and everything into one neat little story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're watching this by itself, please, comment, especially if you want me to do any other chronicles. If there's any chronicles that you want me to specialize on, that'd be great. I'd love to know. I also, the question I do have for the comments is, are you guys involved in the Crimson Harvest this year? How many points have you gotten and how into it are you? But I think that actually, with that, I think that we can wrap up the show for the day. I have been Ash Sharathi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put even to context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for hanging out with us. More chronicles. Yes, we will continue to do more chronicles over time. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do these live streams every week, at least, a few times a week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we cover everything involving news and EVE, how to do things. I've got over 600 videos of lore and how to do stuff and rants and comments and all that sort of stuff. And it's all there for you for free. All I ask is that you give it a like and you share it with at least one other person, because that is how we get this information out there. And that's how we make it so that the player base of EVE knows the lore, knows how to play, and we have a higher quality game. That's what we're here to do, increase literacy in EVE Online. And with that note, I definitely want to give a special shout out to my top patrons and supporters. Aikawarazu Chan, Abyssus, Arkas Ilring, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Federation Frontline, Ganai, Jake Kuhn, Lumi, Midnight Space Monkey, Milk, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Serenlin with No Eyes, Shodanar, Syliana Vel'ash, Tgen Tgen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yantey Lepouf, Zaul Nex, Zero, and my immortal tier supporters 745 MPSI, Arydanika the Queen, Ebo Leet, May, Malak Starfire, Merc Utan, Nihilum, LM1, Sheesh, and Rid. You guys are so awesome. I appreciate it. We do have new emotes. So make sure, if you can, just $1 to become a member. You'll get videos, edited videos a day in advance. And of course the emotes and special colors. And I get to see your comments, like set aside for me, etc. Thank you all. Thank you for the people who, subscribe to become members. Ganai for sharing the membership. What was it? We had, let's see. We had another dono. Right, Brady, thank you once again for that $5. Oh yeah, look at that emote. We've got both the Garistas and the invited. There was somebody saying, well, what about a Blood Raider emote? Well, I'll tell you this. I need, I think, 14 more members, and I can get another emote. If that happens, if I get 14 more members before Halloween, the next emote will be Blood Raiders. Feed the guinea pigs with your likes, comments, and subscribes. I love you guys. And until next time, let me make sure I haven't done. That should be about it. And once again, please, guys, if you want to support me, if you're willing to support me, I don't ask a lot, dude. I don't ask a lot. Be here on Thursday. I will be discussing EVE stuff, but we will also be discussing my new sponsorship. It would mean a huge amount to me. This is my first chance of being a real boy, and my ability to show that, you guys are like, we can do this together, is what's going to secure the future of this channel and allow for more production, etc. So yeah, be ready for that. In addition to that, once again, thank you so much for Danny, Arydanika the Queen, for the emote, or Arydanika, and all of the support that she's given us. And if you want to help her produce the show, we are hiring. And of course, I also want to give, what time Thursday? It's going to be, let's see, it's 2000 now. So what, 1700? I think 1700, 17 or 1800. I'll have it up early, as a stream to wait on if you want. But yeah. I also really want to give a thanks to Malak, my industry director, for helping out with making the war effort as smooth as silk. But no offense, Malak, I think that you'll agree with me. A much, much bigger thank you to Orleas. You rock. She is, if it wasn't for her, the convocation would not function. But she needs help. So once again, if you want to help make the convocation of Empyreans possible and help maximize player engagement with EVE Online, we are hiring. Come check it out. Hey, 07 to you. GM Trails is Orleas. So thank you so much for everything. All that said, I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. And until next time, I'll see you in space. Like the stream if you haven't. Yay!
Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city